Thanks, Kathy. It's okay that we spend a little bit of time there doing that because we do have some time allocated in this for just general questions, general discussions around safe system assessments or road safety matters or anything like that. So we can certainly go down any avenues people would like. But and also if people are getting into their safe system assessments and they've got particular questions around that, I'm happy to talk to those. And yeah, I think a few of you have got started on those, and others have it on their list to do. So yeah, either type it into the chat or put your hand up and we can unmute you and we can chat about the specifics. But this module is around sort of policy guidance, when safe system assessments would be done, and what's some of the common practice associated with safe system assessments. It's also, I was also asked to add in some stuff around IRAP or OSRAP and what it is and how it integrates in. So I'm happy to certainly talk to that. I'm also happy to talk to really other road safety assessment methodologies that are out there that you want a bit of an insight into. I did. We were just talking there with Blair about the Canberra trip, and I just recently delivered a course for the ACT government on unpacking all these different road safety assessment methodologies and techniques, and when they are appropriate and useful, and what to look out for with each of them. So, because it can get quite confusing with OSRAP, safe system assessments, road safety audits, net risk, ANRAM, then the other sort of techniques like for different things, safety and design, DDA audits, and the list goes on. So I'm going to give you an insight into OSRAP/IRAP, and show you sort of what that is and what advantages it can provide, and what some of the pitfalls are there. But as I say, anything else you want me to delve into, just type it into the chat. Kathy will feed that through, or put your hand up if you'd like to chat further. So we are recording this one as well, so you can go back at any point you like. Also keep an eye out for Wally as per usual. But this session is really, I suppose, understanding the benefits of safe system assessments. Well, why am I doing that? You're going to sort of come out of this and you're going to finish your safe system assessment assignment. You'll get the sort of the certificate that says, successfully completed a safe system assessment course. And it would be good to get these as part of common practice in your work environment in different situations. But you kind of want to understand whether they're going to be beneficial or not. And I'm going to point you at some evidence around the benefits. We're going to look at how safe system assessments are done within the life cycle of an infrastructure project, or the process of an infrastructure project, or other project, I suppose. And we're going to explain the difference between safe system assessments and road safety audits. And I then add to this the OSRAP little bit. OSRAP, there it is. Let's start with that. So some of you may have heard of IRAP or OSRAP, and I'll give a prize out for the person who can tell me what either IRAP or OSRAP stands for. In fact, let's just start with the RAP. If you can tell me what the acronym RAP stands for, I'll give you the clue that the I in this one stands for international, and the O for this one, no prizes there, stands for Australian. So
is it road assessment program or road assessment procedure?
It is program. It's road assessment program. Procedure would be a fair guess though, but whoever said road assessment program can have the prize. So let me sort of take you through that in a little bit of detail. The first thing that you should know in terms of the actual methodology we use and what it produces and these sorts of things, IRAP equals OSRAP. Okay. We just in Australia call it the Australian Road Assessment Program, and IRAP is the international one, but the methodology and everything is the same. Okay. So if you're asked, if you want an OSRAP assessment and somebody says they do an IRAP assessment or vice versa, it is interchangeable in that sense. IRAP, the International Road Assessment Program, as an organization, it's a charity actually, that sort of coordinates all of this. They do some things like accrediting people that can star rate roads and the like. And I'll show you what that is shortly. But a little sort of insight into that is that the same way your fridge or your washing machine gets an Energy Star rating, well, a safety star rating can be put on roads. And it's based on a specific assessment methodology. Now, it's different to a safe system assessment, but there's some similarities, I suppose, because this one does quantify things. But let me talk you through the star rating process. How do you look at a road and get to a star rating for it? Okay, so the first thing to understand is that there's got to be some sort of collection of attributes of the road. Now, this can be done with sort of complex survey vehicles, and there's different organizations that offer that. Or there are sort of cheaper and simpler techniques using just essentially a dash cam or even street view footage to then be able to code that data up. And so that's to plug in, you know, the different specifics of these different variables. And there's about 50 to 60 variables that you have to input. And you input those for every 100 meters of a length of road. So that all that coding goes in. There's a bit of data preparation, make sure, you know, the coding went in right, it's not conflicting with anything, it processes it. And then it spits out star ratings. Now, the star ratings, as you can sort of see there, are for passenger vehicles, for motorcycles, for pedestrians, and for cyclists. So you get a specific star rating for any length of road for each of those road user types. So it could be that you have a 5-star road for passenger vehicles, and it's a 3-star road for motorcycles, and it's a 1-star road for pedestrians, and it's a 1-star road for cyclists. That's a possibility. Then within this IRAP, OSRAP sort of suite of things, you can produce what they call investment plans. And that is sort of based on, in theory, these are things that you could do which would improve the star rating. Now, I want to take you through this in a bit of detail, and then I want to tell you some practical applications and uses of this and some things that I don't think it is particularly good for at all. But others might, you know, try and say that, you know, you could use it for this, but I'll just take you through that. A couple of things on this. This is pretty well research based in terms of what are the attributes of the road and how much do they influence crash risk, okay? And it's based on, you know, some pretty solid research and evidence. So that, I think, is a huge advantage. The 100-meter sections causes us to be fairly strategic looking at stuff. So on a route, when you're coding it, when you're coding a 100-meter section, you take the worst spot in that whole 100 meters, and it gives the, I suppose, rating for that whole 100 meters. So if you had a 100-meter stretch of road that was, really good, except for there was one particular tree, for example, within that close to the edge line or something on a high-speed road, that whole 100 meters is going to be thrown out in the star rating based on that one tree. Okay. Now that can be a really good thing because you're picking the worst thing, but it sometimes means that you can't be too specific and refined with this methodology. It is best in terms of used at a more network-wide level. I'll come back to that with some examples. So there is some, technical guidance, committees and oversight from different global committees that review and monitor and check for updates that are required. So if you have a stretch of road, for example, like this, and you are then coding up a whole lot of data, or you're inputting a whole lot of data. So these are sort of the data inputs that you're putting in that will spit out your risk rating, which is essentially your star rating. So you're looking at, well, okay, have we got paved shoulders on the left and the right? Is there a sidewalk or a footpath? What are the hazards and how far off the road are they? What's the area type? So we're talking a rural area, we're talking a commercial area, speeds, vehicle flows. Then, what are the facilities for motorcycles? That's a bit of an odd one for Australia. But remember, this is meant to be an international standard. So we do have a lot of countries out there that have dedicated motorcycle lanes or dedicated motorcycle roads, essentially. Bike facilities, bike flow, pedestrian flow, curvature, quality of the curve, more paved shoulders for the right side then. Then if you've got an intersection, or what's the intersection type and quality, and the intersecting volume, and whether it's got channelization, and do we have access points? Then if there's a pedestrian crossing, well, what type of crossing is it? What's the quality of the crossing? I mean, this one looks a bit odd. It doesn't look like Australia, but because we're missing a whole lot of signage and those sort of things, but the quality of the crossing can be added in. So whether there's speed management, roadworks, and then what's the median? Is there a barrier down the middle, raised median? Are there centerline rumble strips? Do we have good sight distance, delineation, grade, lane widths, skid resistance, street lighting, vehicle parking service, roads, pedestrian fencing? So you can see you've got to put a value in of all of these. So it'll be a sort of yes, no, this facility exists, and then what are the specifics of it, and then what's the quality of it. So you're plugging in a lot of variables there, right? And then you use this coding manual to then understand, okay, what exactly do I code? If I say that the pedestrian crossing is there, but it's in poor condition, how do I code that? How do I make that determination? And so there's quite a bit of guidance in this very substantial document to help you through that. And those are all available freely online from IRAP there. Is the speed, so I think there's a question in here from Andy, is the speed used signposted speed or operational speed? Okay, great question. So in IRAP, and this is one thing people or sometimes see as a deficiency or the like, what they do is they get you to put in the speed limit, and then they get you to put in 85th percentile speed, if you've got it, if you've got speed surveys, and then also 50th percentile speed, if you've got it. Okay. And what they end up doing is, well, it's basically going to be out of 85th percentile or speed limit. They'll take the higher of those, right? Now, they do that because of this. It's one that really annoys me in when I'm star rating roads, because if I do speed calming, proposed speed calming, for example, like local area traffic management or a raised intersection or the like, right? I know my 85th percentile speed is going to be much lower than the speed limit, but the way that the software works is it always takes you higher, so it'll take the speed limit, right? So I see that's a deficiency. So what I'll often do is override that, and it's not how the system quite exactly should be used. And if you're doing sort of holistic looks at major rural networks, it doesn't make sense. But sometimes to get this specific star rating, I'll override that. So good question. To a degree, though, if you talk to IRAP, the global committee and the like, they'll say that they intentionally do that so people don't do exactly what I do to override it, because they'll just go, I'm not getting the star rating I want, so I'll just make the 85th percentile speed. I'll just keep dropping it. And I'll go, oh, well, I predict we've got 85th percentile speeds much lower. Yeah, maybe if they've got data, they're stuck with the data, but if they're making a prediction on 85th percentile. So the software that's used to do this, to input everything and to come out with your star ratings, it's called VIDA, V-I-D-A. It's free. It's free to anybody. You do have to register, but you can register. You just go in there to the IRAP website, or you go to vida.irap.org, register, and you have free access to this. Now, there is some training required to use it. I mean, you can play around with it yourself and get some good insights and ideas, but there is some training that IRAP offers to be able to do this. And then they give you, if you want to go for accreditation to be an official star rater, you can apply and be tested under different things. So we do star rating of roads, and let me explain how we do it and how we use it. Okay, so there are organisations that will sort of do star ratings of the entire New South Wales road network or your entire region. Okay, and they'll send a survey vehicle out, and they'll have automated systems, and they ship all their data off to India, and it gets processed and it comes back, and you get big maps. So we don't, we're not in that game, but where we use it, and we use it quite effectively, is more your isolated road proposed upgrade, or a section of road to look at specifically, how else this perform, or what would the star ratings be on different scenarios. And this is one report. There's actually a road safety audit report we were doing, but with some expanded extras. And it said, well, we've assessed the existing conditions of this road, and it sits there at 1 star for passenger vehicles, 1 star for motorcyclists. Pedestrians, we elected, there was no pedestrian flow there. This is a very rural road, 100 kilometres an hour, trees, culverts, no sealed shoulders. It's your sort of typical high-speed rural road. But there were the occasional sort of bike riders, so they got in there, and they were certainly low. It might be a bit hard to see, but you do get more than just the star rating. I mean, that's the easy one. You might be able to see down here, it's very small. You get some actual numbers, which is a star rating score, an SRS. So it's a number to reflect the risk. And then I sort of said, well, here are some different scenarios, and here's what you would create with that road. And so this first one, 80 kilometers per hour. So drop the speed limit to 80, assuming you get some sort of reasonable compliance. I think I said speed limit to 80, 85th percentile to 90, I think, from memory on this one. With audio tactile, center line, and edge line, and delineation upgrades. And you see it goes to 2 stars and 2 stars, and we get 2 stars out of that as well. So we've done decent amount there. I mean, the sealed shoulders are playing a big role in terms of your cyclists getting that separation, and you're getting some upgrades. So if we do all of that, and we put in some roadside barrier systems, we're up to 4 star for vehicles, 3 star for motorcyclists, still sitting at 2 stars for cyclists, as they haven't had much of any improvement there. And if you do all of the above and a central barrier system as well, you're up to 5 stars, still at 3 for motorcyclists, still at 2. So you can see how you can sort of get some pretty good insights that stakeholders can really understand quite well. Now, this can be very advantageous to you in lobbying for funding, in putting requirements on different projects. The federal government, for example, in the black spot programs now requires star ratings with the proposals. So something like this to say, well, this is the existing star rating, and we're going to do these upgrades, and we're going to bring it up to here. They're aiming at 3 stars or better. So, that one would be saying, well, that's not cutting it. It's a great tool to talk to the community with, to talk to politicians with, because people don't need a long explanation when we sort of give them a road safety risk score or these sort of a star rating. It's obvious, everybody quite comfortable with it. They know that they want to get higher star rating. It shows you very clearly how influential speed can be in terms of star ratings, and that we can get improved star rating through infrastructure, but we can also do it through speed management techniques as well, or combinations. So that's the sort of high level in getting these star ratings. You can get the detailed data. So again, like if you've got a route like this, you can get what we'd call the risk worm out of the software, and you can start to see sections that have high points of risk, and you can sort of isolate that 100-meter section and say, okay, there's something there. You can see bits that perform better, and you can see the red line there is sort of the average, sort of a rolling average of that, and that's what we call the smooth star rating. So most of the time we do a smooth star rating if we're doing a whole route. You can see that one's been smoothed out because it's generally red with a bit of the yellow. So it's generally 2 stars with a bit of 3 star there. But if you look at the actual detailed risk worm, you can see it lots of little spots where it goes to 1 star and goes pretty bad. So you can use either the smooth if you're thinking strategically, or you can use the raw if you're looking for those more individual spots and trying to rectify things.
Sorry, just a quick comment there.
Yeah.
Someone's popped into the chat. The recent federal road stimulus funding required an improved star rating for council.
Right. Okay. Just some sort of improvement. Okay. So yeah, you can see people are starting to use it as a technique to give that indication. I think this is important. You're building a better picture now of what's behind it, and so here's another example. This one's actually an overseas one, but same idea. Hang on, back to sneeze. Okay. You can see here that you're able to get sort of percentages of the route that have different star ratings, and then it can spit out investment plans for you if you want. What I see with the investment plans, though, is I really stress that those are so broad brushed, automated investment plans that anybody who sort of has some general understanding of road safety would be better to do that themselves rather than use that, because of those specific 100-meter sections, and you can isolate and target the context of it. I mean, this is meant to be a worldwide generic context thing. You're just going to look at some of these investment plans and go, we'd never do that. Like, that's so odd and weird. And that's because that might be what all of Southeast Asia does in terms of different things. So really, careful. But what it can be helpful for is you can take all of this star rating data and the crash history of the road, and you can predict death and serious injury before and after. Here's another example of a star rating report of the existing conditions for vehicles and motorcyclists. And you can see there, that section's worse. And that section's worse for motorcyclists. So they're the 1 star. Or you can go into a raw, more detailed look, and you can start to pick out specific sections that are 1 star or 2 star. Or you can draw out the data and find out exactly why you're spiking in risk at specific locations there, for example. And you can see that it's because of vehicle run off road, passenger side. So that's probably a site where there's like a tree or a culvert very close to the road in that 100-meter section. And everywhere else, there's a bit more distance to those hazards. You get it for both motorcycles and vehicle occupants. So the process to star rate a design, I mean, it's the same software, it's the same coding and everything like that. You're just looking at a plan, a design. You put it in, you can take some photos just to store it, but you code it up the same way. So you look at all of those variables and you look at the design and say, okay, well, when they build it, it's going to have these features, and I code those up and it spits out a star rating. Okay, I'm just going to go back. There's something else I wanted to cover off, I think. Yeah, it's this one. So while it can be really good to present your data like this, if you're into it, the technical elements of a particular job, it's not that useful. I when we've got like an intersection upgrade and we're designing that, or we're looking at that, or a short length of road for upgrade or the like, I will only use this as a communication tool. This is why we're doing it. We're taking it from a 1-star to a 3-star, or those sort of things. If it's actually about specific technical decision making, this is too broad brush. So hopefully that helps you. I'll take questions on that before I jump into some safe system assessment stuff.
Yeah, terrific. Thank you, Ken. Is crash history an input or an attribute here?
Okay. So the crash history is only, let me go back. The crash history sort of comes into play here to get you your investment plan. It's not going to change the star rating. Okay. So you don't use crash history to get the star rating, but then the crash history gives you investment plans, and it also gives you your prediction on future death and serious injury in the area based under whatever scenarios you've put in. If that makes sense. So that, the other one it doesn't take into account is volume of vehicles. So how do I explain this? So you do put in vehicle volumes as a variable. However, it's not influencing your star rating from a collective exposure level. So let me explain that with an example, because that sounds confusing. If you've got a goat track out in the middle of nowhere and it has like 5 vehicles a day, right? It's going to get a star rating of 1 probably, because it's got very bad infrastructure, and it's going to get that star rating of 1, right? And then you might go and look at part of the Pacific Highway, and it gets a star rating of 3, for example. It's then like, that is not telling you where to invest, is it? Because your risk level in terms of your whole state there, or your whole region or the like, that's not telling you. It's just saying what is physically there is this star rating for an individual driving. You then have to think about, well, where's our best investment? And that's where they'll use the crash history a bit to help you out, and they'll get you to a benefit cost ratio. But it doesn't do that whole strategic planning of your network and investment at a strategic network level. Anything else there, Kathy?
Not at the moment. So I guess, just an opportunity for any other questions.
Yeah, so I could spend a lot longer on this, and I could live demonstrate within Vita how to star rate something and show you to do it. But I want to talk a little bit more about safe system assessments, cover that off. When we, at the end, we might have a bit of time, and I'm happy to do that if people have an interest in that, or as I say, take other methodologies and try and explain them to you. There's some real advantages with this in my mind. You've got a consistent international standard on risk rating. You've got a very easily consumable output, being star ratings that people understand and the like. So those are all good advantages. Disadvantages are it's very broad brush. It doesn't take into account context. It has to be an international thing, so it doesn't take into account, not only sort of context off site, but also the cultural context, the specifics of how we do things and the like. Anyway, the federal government's committed to trying to achieve 3 stars or better. and we're seeing some requirements for OSRAP star ratings with projects, or using star rating of roads to try to prioritise investment in one way or another.
Thank you, Ken. Okay, we are probably good to carry on. And yeah, as time allows at the end, you can choose your own adventure training. You can have SSA or IRAP or whatever you'd like.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, well, let's get back to safe system assessments, because that's, you know, you've done your, or you're in the process of doing a bit of a mock safe system assessment, and having a go at it, using that matrix, putting scores in, putting factors in, packaging it all up. You know, what is the status in Australia and New Zealand of safe system assessments? Well, it's really taking off. I mean, we're seeing jurisdictions with mandates and commitments to safe system assessments as part of infrastructure projects. And your very recent road safety action plan, which is now out, puts you squarely in it. Safe system assessments required at feasibility, functional design and detailed design stages of all transport for New South Wales infrastructure projects. There you go. So I think that there will be some variety in the level of depth and detail of these assessments, but it's a really significant step for New South Wales. And I think we've been training up safe system assessors. You're going to be in there doing it. There's not as much independence requirements as there are for road safety audits with safe system assessments. So in theory, for smaller projects or for different bits and pieces, it could be done internally with a safe system assessment packaged in with the project. But certainly for more comprehensive designs and the like, you know, getting this independent assessment team in will be becoming standard practice, and it's required under your new plan that you'll be getting safe system assessments done. But are they beneficial? Well, you hope they are. If your government has committed to doing a whole lot of them, and adding, I suppose, an extra requirement on already red tape clad infrastructure projects. But yeah, they are providing value, and they're providing value above and beyond the existing processes. And I use this independent evaluation, which was done by Blair Turner while he was at ARB, it was done on 35 safe system assessments, which were pretty big projects. Bypasses, there's town bypasses, major like outer suburban arterial road duplication jobs, freeway upgrades, big stuff, right? But what we can see here is the output. And this tells me quite a story, and I'll walk you through it. You might have some other insights from it, or might disagree with me, that's okay. So what happened was they used a crash prediction model, which actually wasn't that far off what I just showed you with IRAP, but it's a bit more sophisticated than that. And they said, right, okay, fatal serious injury crashes. If none of these projects happened, if no project was to occur, the roads stay as they are. So for those town bypasses, no, all the traffic still goes through the town over the next 20 years. And with duplication jobs, no, it's not duplicated, it stays as it is. They predicted there would be, over these whole areas, 7,900 serious injuries, 344 fatalities. Each of these had a design, though. A design was produced mainly by the big design houses, big design consultancies, and of the 35, I think 32 or 33 had been subject to a road safety audit, feasibility stage road safety audit. And what that did under the prediction model for the next 20 years, they predicted that it brought it down to 6,700 serious injuries and 286 fatalities over the next 20 years across these areas. The safe system assessment was then done. And as you're doing, scoring was produced, but lots of recommendations came out of it. If the project team had taken on the highest benefit recommendations presented, it would have brought it down to 3,890 serious injuries, 167 fatalities. What the project teams actually adopted, so they got this list of ideas and things that could be improved, and they said, well, yeah, we can't do that one, we can't do that one, but we can do those three, we can't do that one, and the like. Where they got to was 5,298 serious injuries, 227 fatalities. Okay, so this tells me quite a story, and I'll take you through it. First thing it says to me is that, okay, our big design houses, our big design consultancies are producing designs pretty much just following the standards and guidelines of the time that improve road safety. Good. No doubt they have lots of other benefits, right? Efficiencies or other bits and pieces, congestion easing, whatever it is. So we're seeing an improvement in road safety. The difference, though, between what is produced and what could be produced is pretty big. Got a big chunk there. Okay. This is an interesting difference. That difference to me is associated with what people are willing to accept, people's predictions on what would be politically palatable, what the community, they feel the community will accept or not accept. Sometimes it's constraints, which are, physical infrastructure constraints like cultural heritage issues or cost or environmental things. So it sort of gets scaled back from what, could be done to practically, well, this is where we got to. The difference here, though, the difference there is the value of a safe system assessment going through the process. That is literally, that's what it was, and that's what it ended up being. Because I went through this process and were questioned and ideas were put to them and they altered things. So I think over time we will see, and we are seeing, this comes down because the designers are getting safe system assessments fed back to them. They're looking at them, they're going, oh, okay, do that. I can do that. And then their next design, they think, oh, that safe system assessor said, yeah, okay, I'll maybe integrate that in from the start. So we see it as an education device and a tool that helps improve things that way. This gap and reducing that is complex, and it's going to be, trying to get cultural change in industry, trying to do lots of education, building up capability, capacity, and technical things, getting more funding, getting political support, getting organizational support. Yeah, there's a lot packed into that. This is why New South Wales government is committed to it. Safe system assessments. They want to get all the value they can out of every project that's happening. That is fascinating because we've all sort of committed to this 2050 elimination of death and serious injury. And we've got somebody or a team of people who have done a safe system assessment on a project and given their best ideas for reduction in death and serious injury, and even if those are all taken on, we have this residual death and serious injury, don't we? And so, reading the evaluation report and looking into that a bit and trying to say, what's going on? I thought, we'd be close to zero with that. Well, these are really tricky things for us to address, and the infrastructure alone really isn't going to cut it. And these are things like high-speed, really high-speed crashes, people, very much exceeding speed limits, lots of passengers in a car without seatbelts and things like that. So even our barrier systems and things are then into question as to whether they're going to prevent serious injury because, occupants aren't doing that. Motorcycle is highly represented in this residual. We call it the residual. So things like people walking on a rural road at night, high-speed road, being struck, and it's just weirdly out of context in a project that's on a road that doesn't have pedestrians to be suggesting full, pedestrian separation. So those don't sort of play out. So in one sense, this really shows that I think this evaluation was legitimate in the sense that that's the reality of it. The answer to this, though, is that we need to innovate in this space. We need to come up with new ideas. We need to come up with new treatments. We need to come up with new technology to address all of these ones that are not being addressed in what we've currently got. We need to also look at other elements of the system here. We need, vehicles, vehicle technology. We need behavioural change interventions. We need enforcement activities. We need, major policy shifts, and there's a heap of work to be done in here. So that's sort of my ramblings on the evaluation and the value. There's proven value in safe system assessments. They're absolutely there. And that's why a lot of jurisdictions are committing to them. Does anybody have any questions or comments around that?
Thanks, Ken. We don't have any questions at the moment. It's given us a lot to think about there.
Yeah, all right. Well, I'll suppose sum up a few of the benefits of safe system assessments, which are worth knowing just to be able to talk to others about them when you're, they're saying, well, I'm a safe system assessor because I successfully completed the course, and they're a very beneficial thing. They're a great way of determining how well a project aligns with safe system principles, and we've been craving that as an industry for a long time. People saying, oh, we can't do that. That's not safe system, or we're this whole program safe system, and you're like, well, what does that mean from a philosophical, philosophy to say it is or it isn't? I mean, it's hard to quantify and to put your finger on it. So this is a great method for doing that. Great way to compare design options. So when you're at the optioneering stage of a project and being able to quantify, inject this into multi-criteria assessments, and it works really well. Information on design changes that'll move a project closer to those objectives we've got of eliminating death and serious injury. I don't think at the moment it'll get us completely there. We need to be innovating and bigger changes, but it's pretty good. Good method to assist everybody in going from theory to practice in safe system, and a sound basis for future planning of road infrastructure. Okay, I'll jump into some process guidance. Or actually, Kathy, it might be time to just have a little stretch and let people run and fill up a glass of water and the like. What about if we take, how long? 3 minutes, 4 minutes?
Let's go with 4 minutes. And yeah, a good opportunity to obviously have a break, but also type in any questions that you want covered in this next bit.
Yeah, good. All right. See you in 4 minutes. Thank you. Okay. So let's get back into it. So what is the process of a safe system assessment? And now you know within the actual doing of a safe system assessment, but I'm talking sort of like organizationally and in terms of within a project. The best time to undertake the safe system assessments are early in the project. And hopefully you can sort of piece this together yourself, but in the sense that the safe system assessment should be making suggestions on changes to the project. And sometimes they can be fairly substantial. So if you're too far down the design process, there's just so much reluctance to make these changes. And if you've got a detailed design set and you're recommending fundamental changes to intersection form and the like, it just won't happen. It's too far gone. I mean, business cases are done, it's all funded, and it's just all into the details. So they don't work well at that stage. All they really do at that stage is provide you with quantification and little tweaks. So I sort of always suggest trying to get it done in these concept draft stages, and then just road safety auditing down here when you're into the details. What is the difference between those two? There's been a bit more sort of closing of the gap between the two, road safety audit and safe system assessment, with the most recent Austroads Guide to Road Safety Part 6, which is road safety audit, which I have a lot of involvement in. So we haven't quite got them together, but the likelihood of crash is very well covered in both audit and safe system assessment. I still say the severity of crashes is only sometimes looked at in road safety audits. Now, some people will sort of argue and say, no, you've got to risk rate things and it's got severity and it's got likelihood, so it has to have considered severity. But I just continue to see a lot of road safety audits that kind of ignore an issue of severity in preference to look at likelihood. So let me give you the obvious example: set of traffic signals between, I don't know, 270 km/h roads or 280 km/h roads. See, audits come in and they're very comprehensive, but all they do is look at things that address the likelihood of crashes. So sight lines to the signals, the line marking, the surface, these sorts of things, and the fundamental energy of that intersection when somebody runs a red light is ignored. So it's putting everything into that likelihood of crash, which is great. I mean, we want to get all of that, but we also want to say, okay, now the crash is happening, how bad is it? So that's one example. I mean, yeah, I suppose I'll leave it at one example. I could give more. Issues that impact on the exposure to crashes is not really considered in isolation in a road safety audit. Exposure, so the number of vehicles, is packed into likelihood in a road safety audit. They're sort of combined and mashed together. The discrete drawing out of exposure on its own entity in a safe system assessment has some pretty good advantages in helping people see where risk is coming from, but also think of interventions. They both provide recommendations to improve road safety, that's for sure. Except for, I should say, not in New South Wales. So New South Wales is the only jurisdiction that doesn't allow recommendations in road safety audits. I know there's a bit of a process and a culture of having sort of a road safety audit done, and then it's a separate memo that comes from the audit team with some some recommendations to try and get around that. But safe system assessments do come with recommendations or ideas for the project team to consider. Both thinking about all road users, the audit, has a broader focus and often has more interest in these other injury crashes and minor bits and pieces, whereas the safe system assessment is really focused on those high-end severity ones. Now, there is the ability for safe system assessments to look at the vehicles and have a look at the fleet and what's going on there. A bit more looking at the people and what interventions are in there. These are through those qualitative questions we talked about at the end of the last session. You can have more look at the ability to maintain stuff within a safe system assessment, a post-crash care, recommendations to redesign the project, fundamental changes. That is part of a safe system assessment if it's appropriate, and encourages innovation. And this to me is a really massive one. So if you've got something innovative, I'm going to go with, say, a raised signalized intersection on an arterial road. Okay, it's not commonplace in New South Wales. If somebody designs that up and hands it over for a road safety audit, all that will come back is a big list of risks. That's all road safety audits do. If you do a safe system assessment, the first thing that'll come back is the graph and all of the benefits you'll get from this, because you will see the drop in different scores. Then it will talk to some of those risks that the audit presented. So it actually helps if you've got anything innovative that can reduce death and serious injury. The natural practice is to see the risks in it and then throw the baby out with the bathwater. But a safe system assessment is a great process to help this go through. Also, safe system assessments can be done at a program level, can be done at a whole of community level, a mine site, very versatile from that perspective. So lots of good advantages to them. Road safety audits still play a great role, and they will be part of our process. One day they'll probably be combined. New Zealand already jumped there and they've now combined them, but Australia is still sort of doing these two, which have overlapping elements. Okay, the process when asked to do a safe system assessment or when commissioning a safe system assessment is that somebody's decided it needs to happen. And they might decide between what we call a full and a rapid. Now, I'll explain the difference between those two shortly. I'll explain shortly. But somebody decides, right, we need to do an assessment and we need to do a full safe system assessment. And that's essentially the client or the end asset manager. They also then will select the safe system assessment team. They might get the designer to select for them, but then there's some sort of commencement meeting or some sort of thing where exchange of information is happening. So this could happen as a sit-down meeting or a Teams meeting, and everybody discusses all the aspects of the project and make sure everybody understands the context and what's happening and what they're planning. Then there's a inspection of the site by the safe system assessment team. Completion of the matrix, which you're doing at the moment, hopefully. That's all the scoring and everything as well. Consideration of those other elements, so those qualitative questions we talked about at the end of last session. ideas, treatments, improvements to get better alignment with safe system principles. So saying, okay, thanks for the design, we've scored it, here it is, but we also think you could add this and change this and improve this. That's all reported up in a fairly consistent manner, and we've got templates for that, and you're using one of the templates. Then it's handed over, and the client or the end asset manager or the like may delegate this to the designer, but says, what can we do and what can't we do here? We've got this report, what's achievable, what's not. And then they amend and change the design and incorporate them in. Otherwise, what's the point of us sort of having done any of this, really? Sometimes there's a feedback between this stage and down here, where they go, okay, here's some ideas to change things. And then they go, okay, we're going to do these bits. Tell us what the score would be once we've done all of those. And you get this, you actually can get a really nice sort of story to add to your business case, which sort of says, the existing conditions scored up here, and, the risk was up here. Our first design was here, and we got some good risk reductions. We did a safe system assessment, and we've got it down to here. We've done everything, practical that we possibly can. And so then if anybody says to you, well, are you doing the best you can for safe system? We're committed to that. So yeah, we are. Look, we went to here, but then we managed to bring it all the way down to here. And so that, from a business case perspective, and I suppose just from a perspective as, have we done everything we possibly can? It's good. Questions or comments at this stage?
Thank you, Ken. How does an SSA and RSA look when combined?
New Zealand has just released what they are calling their safe system audit guidelines, and it is the combination of the two. Essentially what it is a safe system assessment first, and then a road safety audit, just all in the one document. And okay, so you don't need to write, you write one introduction, you write one, project context and scope and things like that. And, you only write one time, this is where the site is and things. But essentially it's the matrix, the scoring, the qualitative questions, the recommendations, and then a road safety audit report on those particular issues. So yeah, I think they could have streamlined it and made it a bit better, but that's where they ended up. But nobody else is doing that.
So I guess it's a bit of a watch this space and see how that plays out over the next year or so.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so why am I showing Victorian government page here? Because New South Wales does not have a registration or accreditation scheme for safe system assessors. The two jurisdictions that do are Victoria and South Australia. You, as a New South Wales safe system assessor, are welcome to register yourself in the Victorian one or South Australian one if you want to, or you are welcome to simply do safe system assessments in New South Wales using a certificate of successful completion from this course as your justification or qualification to be able to do that. Technically, I suppose you don't even need that. You could just sort of go and do them, but people would often want some assurance that you've been through the process or had a bit of training or the like. But Victoria does have this, and it's under the Safe System Engineering page of the Vicarage website, and it's really they have a process to go through, which is to sort of express an interest, but do this course. do a real world safe system assessment. So not just the mock one that we're getting you to do, because we stripped out a lot of the, time consuming stuff that may not prove that you know the specifics, but they want the whole thing. You submit that in, and then it's actually reviewed by a government official, and then if they think you've proved your competency, they add you to the list. And the list is just a update, PDF they update here and there, and it's got people on there who are what they call the Register of Recommended Safe System Assessors. So you could get onto that if you want that extra sort of qualification. There's a bit of work though to get on that Victorian one, because you have to do a real one, you have to package it all up. And the South Australian one, much easier. They just say, do the course, get a certificate of successful completion, and send that in with your details, and we'll put you on our list. So you can do that. That one's a bit easier if you really just want to say, yep, and I'm on a government pre-qualified list for safe system assessors. So at this stage, I'm not aware of any New South Wales sort of requirements on what different types of safe system assessment will be done, and when and where, and the like. Just what's come out in that road safety plan. But some jurisdictions use a price technique, like total estimated cost of project. Above 5 million, full safe system assessment. Less than 2 million, well, rapid safe system assessment if you're going to do one. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see what comes out. And if anybody knows particularly what Transport for New South Wales is pushing forward with, I'd be interested in that. But at this stage, we haven't been given any intel on that. With the difference between a full and a rapid safe system assessment, I've listed here. Just so you know that there's a bit of variability in what you can do there. They're not dramatically different, but there are some differences. So if we look through what a full safe system assessment has, it's got some sort of commencement meeting, exchange of information, getting that background and context, possibly some sort of in-person workshop talking about the project, but that can be a bit optional. Definitely site inspection, matrix, safe system, other pillar questions and thinking around that. Design changes, so recommendations, alterations, full reporting, and then changes to the design, and rescoring if necessary, and amend the scope. So when we go over to a rapid, well, it's probably easiest for me to just cross out the full one, what's sort of not required, or not necessarily required. So, I'll put a dotted line through commencement meeting, because you're still going to need to exchange information somehow. You're going to need to get that background and context. The workshop, really not one. Site inspection, I put an even lighter dot through this, because people often do site inspections for rapids, because it's so valuable in gaining that context. But theoretically, yeah, rapids could be done desktop only. You still got to do the matrix. You don't consider the other elements of the safe system in those specific qualitative questions that we put at the end of last session. You just do a bit of a shorter report, and everything else I think is the same. Okay, I'm going to pause there, Kathy, and see if we've got any questions or comments or things people would like a bit more information about, me to expand on.
Thanks, Ken. We're looking good at the moment, but if you would like to maybe have a chat. Oh, hold on. Here we go. Somebody was typing. Okay, the safe system approach is great. Now the process funding applications is based on risk or near misses. The days of where the customer would say to me, you're waiting for someone to be killed, are gone. SSA is a proactive approach and is not dependent on fatal crashes to obtain a BCR. I think that might be a question there at the end. Yes, it is.
Well, yes, it is. I mean, it's proactive. Yeah, it is a proactive approach. It doesn't require crashes because you're scoring from that sort of risk assessment perspective. So you can, exactly as you say, look at a site. It may not have a crash history. You've assessed, the speeds, the volumes, the infrastructure around it, and all. The score comes out high, and you can then say there's a road safety risk here, and we should address it. To take that specifically to a BCR can be a little bit tricky, because to get yourself a normal BCR, you kind of need to have crash prediction in terms of numbers to then equate to dollars to compare against dollars for investment. So safe system assessment gives you a score, but it doesn't put that to a specific dollar value. You could use the IRAP methodology, the OSRAP methodology to spit something out for you. But again, that's sort of crash history based. But you can get a risk reduction score per dollar spent, absolutely, without having to do that. Now, I think Andy's got his hand up, so maybe we have a chat there. Andy, I think you can unmute yourself now. Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes, gotcha. How are you?
I'm good, mate. I'm alive. I woke up this morning.
Good start to the day then.
Mate, this is good news. I just look, just thinking about some of the intersections I've looked at in the past where it doesn't stack up, it doesn't meet the funding, but we know it's a problem child with near misses. This process gives me that opportunity to go there, where I'm able to get funding to an intersection that doesn't stack up in other processes. I haven't got the crashes there. So that's what I'm talking about. It's another avenue, and it's an avenue to be proactive rather than just dismiss that location.
Yeah, absolutely. That's you're right. And certainly the funders that is centrally, Transport for New South Wales, Centre for Road Safety and the like, they like the process, they're aware of it, they like to see this sort of thing, but it gives a bit more concrete evidence than just, we think that should be funded, if that makes sense.
Well, like I said, when you're talking to the public and they've got an issue there, and we often get it. Are you waiting for my child to be killed? Are you waiting for someone to be killed before you do anything? This avenue just seems sensible.
Good.
It's the future.
Yeah, great. All right.
I'll have a pair of socks on that, Ken.
Kathy, add a pair of socks there.
I don't know, Andy. You're totally fishing. You're fishing there.
Andy wanted the socks in.
Nah, mate. No, it's all right. I'm not.
No, it's all right. You're going to get the socks, Andy.
In Goldman and missed out. So.
All right. Who else wants some socks? Come on, let's do this.
Kathy's on a sock giving out spree.
Oh, we want some socks.
Just another question, Ken. Why is New South Wales behind the 8 ball compared to other states? Sounds like it.
In some bits, yes, in some bits, no. I mean, I think with the recent road safety plan commitment, I think it's sort of leapfrogged a few jurisdictions. Victoria and South Australia were pretty quick on to this safe system assessment stuff, and Queensland as well. But yeah, I think New South Wales come back pretty quick, and it'll just be, I think, the next 6 months of rapid integration into project systems and plans and funding bids and those sort of things that will, we'll see everybody back.
So
back
in the
to
black
that.
spot program with the feds, they're looking at this. They will want an SSA.
Yeah, so they
Is that a prerequisite?
that one will depend on how the state manages the federal program. So the feds usually go through the state at a head office, and the state issues the specifics of the requirements. Quite a number of jurisdictions like Queensland, Victoria have definitely said within that a safe system assessment should be put as part of the funding application in the federal black spot program. Haven't sort of mandated it either, but they said that's a great supporting evidence. And as you sort of said there, great supporting evidence for the sites that don't have a crash history, because it
Correct.
proves the risk.
So Kelly's jumped in. Sorry, Kelly's jumped in to say, yes, Andy, they closed on Friday, and RSA or SSA only for proactive. Other comments there.
There you go. Good. Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks for putting your hand up there, Andy.
Thanks, Kelly. Anyone else or any other questions? We've got about 30 minutes to go.
Well, I do have some road
Safe
environment.
system road environments is what your screen says, Ken. So okay. All right. Well, let's run through those and yeah, see if any other questions pop up.
Good. Okay. So safe system road environments. What on earth am I talking about here? Well, because in this safe system assessment course, and as I say, we're going to give you a certificate when you successfully show us that you understand the process. You'll have only really done a safe system assessment on one particular road environment, because we gave you a design and off you've gone and had a look at that and come back. Throughout the day we spent together, or if you did it, the first 3 days online or whatever it was, we've been talking about lots of different road environments, lots of different road users, lots of different bits and pieces. But I did want to just finish off here by going through a series of road environments, and I'm going to talk about residential, shopping strips, mixed-use arterials, low and high volume rural roads, high volume outer suburban arterials and major urban freeways and rural highways, and just talk very briefly about, well, what would make these road environments really highly aligned with safe system principles. And so the reason for that is that, if you do a safe system assessment on one of these environments, you're going to be sort of asked to make recommendations, make suggestions for changes, and we want to maximize how well we align with safe system and principles, how much safety we get out of these. And I think I'll do this interactively for some of them, and for some I'll just have a little chat about what sort of things, and that'll probably tick us through, and we might give you a little bit of time at the end to final questions, or jump in and get back to that safe system assessment assignment. Kathy, do we have a quiz at the end of today? That might be, I can't remember whether there's a quiz.
We certainly do.
Okay, well, we'll give people a little bit of time to do the quiz at the end. But I thought, okay, well, let's get people typing a few things in, bit interactive, you'll win some more prizes. In our residential street environments, what are we thinking? So an environment like this, probably default 50 km/h speed zone. It has a access onto a sort of major road down there, maybe an arterial road or something. What sort of, I'm going to ask you to type into the chat, what changes could we make to improve alignment with safe system principles? But just because we like exposure, likelihood, and severity, also tell me whether that influences exposure, likelihood, or severity. which hopefully you're getting your head around pretty well because that's part of your safe system assessment. So any ideas on what would improve alignment with safe system principles, and just put like an E or an L or an S to indicate exposure likelihood and severity after that. Pop them into the chat. I might give away some prizes.
Thought you'd say prizes, Ken. Maybe Andy can get 2 pairs of socks.
Or maybe we should give our socks out one at a time so they have to.
Ooh, that's cruel, but I like it. All right, I'm going to kick us off. Close the road. Exposure.
Right. Kathy,
Do I get a prize? I get 1 sock.
Yes. Okay. So Andy's done beautifully there. The straightness of the road is going to induce high speed. There's no speed calming there. So he's talking about cushions or platforms or speed humps. And there we go. Now people are coming in. The pedestrian refuge likelihood, absolutely. One way the street, it could be exposure if we think the traffic volume is going to come down, or it could be likelihood. So that's another good one. These are good things in there. And I think one maybe. Okay. Well, prizes for everybody there, Kathy, because I like what I'm seeing. And certainly, I mean, the thing with these areas, though, is that we know under a movement in place scenario, these are, these are not major movement corridors. Thus, we have the ability to reduce that speed significantly, dampen speeds down, and physical infrastructure to do that is the preferred way to do it. Speed limit reductions can go in place as well, area speed limits, but we really want to see them supplemented with, speed humps, cushions, and the like. We can narrow the road if we wanted with curb outstands. Removing parking, while it might open up sight lines, which will reduce likelihood, it can give a wider road and more speed. So if you're going to do that, you do want to put those curb outstands or speed calming, or utilize that space for bike facilities or the like. So lots of good ideas there, but getting vehicle speeds down significantly through these areas. Closing the road off, as Kathy said, great starting point, because that's going to reduce the exposure, the less vehicles through there. It won't be used as a rat run, and that then significantly reduces the overall risk, or gets us better alignment with safe system principles. Maybe prize if somebody can tell me where this is. A quick one. Sure, people will know. It's a New South Wales one.
I was going to say, you're making it too easy.
It is Bondi.
What state?
Well, Bondi Junction, but that's close enough. So these sorts of areas where we, in a movement in place context, have high place value. We know it's that big commercial district, and the roads really, movement through them isn't, again, that high priority. So we can further pedestrianize these areas and slow vehicles down. There's a temptation by people to want to corral and block and put big pedestrian fencing up. In fact, you can see here that the bollards did used to have pedestrian, they had whatever they were, ropes or whatever, through there to try to, stop pedestrians and corral them. But that is not going to align well with the movement in place context of this area. And it's also probably not going to do a good job at improving road safety. It may go the other way of people just walking along the road and the like. the far better way is to continue to bring the speeds of vehicles down and make them a bit the odd ones out in these scenarios. That can be done with, again, raised treatments, restricting access of vehicles, speed limit reductions complemented by those physical treatments, all, really good stuff. Maybe into making a shared zone as well. And this one's a little problematic because of the bus, the route the buses go, but certainly opportunity for significant improvements. Okay, let's talk about this one, mixed use arterials. And these are often high movement, high place value areas. What's this, Oxford Street? So what sort of things could we see in these road environments that would improve our alignment with safe system principles? Any ideas there?
Should I just keep coming in with close the road exposure? I'm only kidding.
Well, the cycleways that people are suggesting is a very nice one. I like that idea. So providing that separation for cyclists can be a really great advantage. Improve alignment with safe system principles, reduce the exposure of cyclists to crashes or the like. Idea of raised median in there, providing that reduction in the likelihood of crashes. Another good one. I mean, that's a spot for pedestrians to use as refuge as they cross. It'll reduce sort of vehicles crossing over center lines and things as well. The idea then of sort of pedestrian fencing down the middle, that's an interesting one, because that's probably going to give better safe system alignment, but really probably detract from the place value of the area. It probably, it's an interesting one. You'd also want to do a bit of detailed thinking about what possible pedestrian desire lines. Will people walk along the road pedestrian fence? Will it cause other issues? But yeah, I mean, it's an interesting one to think about. I think the next sort of leap forward in these sorts of environments is for us to start integrating vertical deflection into the road environment. So raising the pedestrian crossings here. And because again, this is a very straight road. It would be easy to put the foot down and go fast during different hours of the day or night when there's not, it's not gridlocked, but we could break this up. Now, people get concerned by that and say, oh no, we couldn't do that. It's major arterial and the like. But you can, and if you're concerned about buses, you could do little bus separated bits, so the bus gets a free run, or bus has a big cushion, so it can go over it easily. But breaking up that ability to get speed, providing that it's almost local area traffic management at an arterial scale, if that makes sense. So it wouldn't be speed humps, but it would be lower profile platforms and the like. Another, interesting one is to utilize our infrastructure for things like dwell on red, rest on red. So some will know that one, but on the Friday nights and Saturday nights, you can just have your signals rephase to rest on red for vehicles. So that's what they see. They see red, and that's its resting position. Rather than the other way around. And that's sort of that acknowledgement that it's not a movement corridor at those hours. and that you're going to have intoxicated pedestrians, and they're at higher risk, and vehicles, you want to make them go slow through here. You want to make it not an attractive route to go, and come up to these crossing points and slow down. So, that's proved quite successful in a number of jurisdictions around the world, and being trialled in Australia in a number of locations. So lots of possible benefit in those sorts of tweaks using existing infrastructure. But yeah, cycleways, as was mentioned, is a really good one, and variable speed zoning as well. Now, one of the extremely hard and challenging areas we're going to have across New South Wales is lower volume, high-speed roads, because there is just an immense amount of it, and we don't have enough money to make it highly safe system aligned to keep the speeds as they are. So the choice has really become, don't do anything with the infrastructure and wait for the vehicles to solve the issues. Spend money on infrastructure on these roads to keep them high speed, but we can't really afford to do that. Try and reduce vehicle travel speed throughout these areas. And obviously just try to reduce risk as much as we practically can. Now, I think that there'll be a bit of a journey, and there'll be attempts to get the speeds down on these sorts of roads. And I think it is the correct thing to do. I think it needs to be done very thoughtfully and strategically with the community and the politics and the like, because people are not going to be on board with that. Some people won't be on board with that. Some people will be on board with that, but there'll be some vocal people against this sort of stuff. So it has to be quite well thought through. In the interim, there's a lot of likelihood measures we can continue to do. We've done them for a long time, and I think everybody will be very comfortable with them. We can look to do shoulder sealing on some of the higher volume ones that we can. We can look at audio tactile, center line, edge line, good delineation, barriers at the highest risk locations, things like point-to-point speed cameras. There's mobile point-to-point technology now, which is starting to be trialed, at least, where they can put these around. New South Wales has to come on board and do point-to-point for all vehicles, not just heavy vehicles, but those sort of things will get us a bit of the way, and I think there's a journey on speed management to come. But our higher volume roads, that's where the money would be going, to keep speeds high, because we've got the freight, we've got the large, these are the major movement corridors between major cities and carry the volume. And so this is where we're talking about central barrier systems and outer barrier systems. And you're seeing a good bit of that happening already. And then, at intersections, your major intersections, you can utilize as U-turn facilities with roundabouts. I mean, that's just a win all around if you put a central barrier system down there and then you put a roundabout, because you can collect some access points, from along there. And then if they want to go right, well, they come out and they go down and they go back. And there's limitations on how far you make people drive out of their way, but you also get all those benefits of the intersection, and everything works, beautifully there. We also are seeing now a lot of side road activated speed. So essentially, you've got a loop here or a radar that looks down this road, and you've got then electronic speed signs for the main road, which will drop the speed to 80 or 70 or whatever it is decided when a vehicle is approaching here and there's a potential conflict. So we're seeing those rolled out in a lot of jurisdictions, side road activated speed limits or the like. And again, just trying to address that at the time. High volume outer suburban arterial style roads where they are very much vehicle dominated. And that's what it is. When we start to try to move these more to urban motorway style thinking, so you're not going to be having cycle facilities on road, only separated by a white line on these 80km/h roads, completely separated facilities, remove the exposure to crashes. This is where more the pedestrian fencing, the median fencing, closing off these sorts of things. You still need to think about speed management at intersections and the like. So trying to get speeds down at those locations would be a good thing. Underpasses, overpasses, removing exposure of pedestrians. Yeah, I think there's some stuff there that should hopefully sound very logical and make sense. Motorways. Motorways have high alignment with safe system principles. We're not having right angle intersections. We've got separation. We've tried to separate different road users. So they've got a lot going for them. Where they start to go bad is during flow breakdown. So if vehicles are free flowing, it performs very safely. If vehicles are completely congested, there's not enough speed for any of the crashes to have serious outcomes. It's as there is speed and the flow breaks down. So what we're really looking at in these scenarios are your lane use management system. So the ability to block off lanes, to proactively reduce speed before before saturation, to do freeway ramp metering with letting vehicles in bits and pieces at a time, to identify broken down vehicles and the like and block off lanes and reduce speed. That's really the frontier in managed motorway. Our big major rural highways, well, often we're not seeing a need for this much median these days, but if it's already there, we're just going to have barrier systems, full containment. And if it's a duplication, we'll probably see much narrower with a single barrier system down the middle. And for the intersections, we'll see grade separations, obviously. And then if there is the possibility of an at-grade intersection with high alignment with safe system principles, but it really does involve that idea that, you've got an intersection, you've got a median and we'll be closing that off, creating an acceleration lane and enough space for the vehicle to get across. So you get your delta V, your change in velocity into reasonable territory. You accelerate them back through the median, enough space that they can then get across and either go that way or that way. That's really the only way to do it, is to play on your difference in velocity of vehicles. You obviously need the land, and can be a bit of cost associated with that. I don't think I need to jump into extra content, Kathy, because I think a bit of time for people to do the quiz, and probably you just want to show them how to finish off the course.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Ken. Although it is exciting to wonder what is in your extra content, but not to worry. Okay, So we're here in the learning management system, and you're in this particular program, which is module 4 and 5 only. So I'll just take you very quickly to module 4, which was last week. To complete your safe system assessment, you've got the template here and the graph generator. Now it is due next Wednesday, so you've still got another week up your sleeve, 7 days and 1 hour to be precise. So your site, you're able to do it in pairs or in groups if you have other people allocated to your particular site. So you are able to do that. And what you do is you will write up your report and submit it here, and then we'll mark it and you'll get some feedback on it. Now you do have more than one attempt. There is also a module 4 quiz. So thanks for the people who jumped in and did that last time. So that was at the end of the last session, and there'll also be a module 5 quiz to do for this particular session, just a short 10-question multiple choice style of thing. So once you've done your 2 quizzes, you've submitted your assignment and it's been marked, then the very last thing for you to do is to give us some feedback on the program, and then your certificate will no longer be restricted. It'll be available to you and you'll be able to download it. Any questions? Yes, of course, there is scope for extending your extension person. This is that time of year, isn't it? And so absolutely, we can do that for you. So if you'd like an extension, please just flick me an email and let me know. And I think what we'll look at is around about maybe 2 weeks at the most, because then we do go into the Christmas period, and then before you know it, it's 2024 and those sorts of things. Isn't that what happens?
Yeah.
Any other questions or comments?
I'm still off mute. Cool. I was just going to say to everyone, I know you want time, but the longer you leave this, the harder it will become. So just try. It took me 2.5 hours to do from start to finish. So yeah,
thanks,
not too
Blair.
hard.
You are absolutely right, because the longer you leave it, the more this will leave your brain cells, and this is becoming a thing in New South Wales, very much so. So I know there's been people that have undertaken the course earlier this year and are just now, trying to do their assessment and that sort of thing, because they are needing to do them for their projects. If you need help, yeah, reach out. So Blair's putting his hand up, but we're also here. So please get in touch with us, and we're here to help. And don't be afraid to just get what you understand and what you know down, because we'll have one of our reviewers review it and give you some feedback, and that'll aid the learning process. Okay, it looks like Blair's very popular, and he's going to get booked out. Thanks, Blair. Ken, thank you so much for your passion and enthusiasm and excitement and living, eating and breathing safe system assessments. Even named an organisation, I think. Thanks very much for putting together this training and delivering it.
Yeah, thank you, Kathy, and thanks for everybody taking time out of the busy schedule to do this. I think it is important, and I mean, you've got the commitment from high-level government now for this. I love the fact that every time I've interacted with this group in the variety of things, there's a lot of passion for safety and a lot of, you can feel frustration in different areas and wanting to get stuff done. I think this provides us a nice tool, a nice lever to add to projects, to convince people, to push things along. So yeah, as was said there, let's just get it finished, get your certificate, get out there and do them. And of course, as you're up and running and doing them, if you need advice or you want examples of different projects, or you come across weird things, just reach out. Let me know. You've got my details. You've got Kathy's details. We're always happy to shoot things over. Anything we can do to help.
Excellent.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Thanks
I was
again.
just going to say, on behalf of everyone, thanks, Kathy. Thanks, Ken, for putting this together. You've catered to our needs specifically as well in this. So I hope everyone got something out of it. I certainly did. And it sort of, yeah, like you said, Ken, gets us moving forward with current practice. So, yeah, thanks very much. And we look forward to doing some road safety audit training in the new year.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, yeah. So you got to get this one done before the next one
Yeah,
comes along.
exactly right.
Yeah, good. Good
Yeah,
stuff.
thanks again. Keep in touch.
Thank you. Thanks,
Thank
Blair.
you.
Okay.
Bye.